This is Eddie Hearn, Matchroom Boxing. You are watching Sporting Icons. You don't need to be anywhere else.
All right, so it's fight week. Anthony Joshua versus Oleksandr Usyk. Of course, this would be for the unified WBA, IBF, WBO and IBO world heavyweight titles. Oleksandr Usyk is a WBO mandatory, and of course, every time that Joshua defends a belt against a mandatory, people always ask, will the other belts be on the line? Yes, they will, for those who don't know. Now, Oleksandr Usyk, of course, he's the former cruiserweight, undisputed world champion. He's still undefeated. He's had a couple of fights at heavyweight. Hadn't looked great at heavyweight, of course. Both of these guys, Joshua and Usyk, both 2012 Olympic gold medalists. Joshua at super heavyweight, Usyk at heavyweight, which of course is the equivalent to cruiserweight. Now, with Oleksandr Usyk being southpaw and the fact that he's got Lomachenko's father back in his team, is that going to create some kind of problems for Joshua? Maybe. But at the same time, Joshua, he would have been preparing for Usyk. He would have seen Usyk fight quite a few times. When it came to, say, the Andy Ruiz Jr. fight, he wouldn't have really studied Ruiz too much coming into this fight. And to be honest, he probably overlooked him. With Usyk, he will not be overlooking him. That's for sure. Now, as far as the fight is concerned, it's going to be a chess match. Both of these guys are going to try and outwit each other, outsmart each other. That's how I honestly feel it's going to be. But I know a lot of people will say, well, Joshua, he's too big, he's too strong, too powerful. Usyk won't be able to take it. Look at what Derek Chisora managed to go through with Oleksandr Usyk. If Chisora can do that with Usyk, surely Joshua can do that and more. It's totally different. Okay, styles make fights. We've heard this saying 100 times. I don't particularly like the saying, but it's the truth. Chisora and Joshua are two totally different styles, two totally different mentalities from many different perspectives. Chisora has very little to no regard for his own chin, for his own face. Joshua does. Chisora will come on forward and he don't mind eating a few shots and then try and land the one big shot. To keep on plodding forward, marching forward. That's not Joshua's way. Never has been his way. Never will be his way. Okay? So to say that Usyk struggled with Chisora has no bearing on this fight whatsoever. Not even remotely. Okay? But at the same time, of course, Joshua has size advantage. He has height and he has reach. Doesn't really matter about the weight so much. It may be a factor, of course, especially as the fight goes on. But for Joshua to win this fight, I think that the best way for him to do it is put on a bit of a stinker, to be honest with you. Do what he done with Andy Ruiz Jr. in the rematch. Keep him behind the jab. Why take risk when you don't have to? Secure the win. That's what it's all about. The end result is what it's about, ultimately. But at the same time, I understand it's going to be very, very difficult. And the longer the fight goes on, I would imagine the more confident Usyk will get. Then you start to see Oleksandr Usyk start to showboat a little bit. He'll be creeping up on Anthony Joshua, sticking his tongue out, pulling faces at Joshua, going like a side to side, moving like a snake, going to the body of Anthony Joshua. And Joshua's going to have to be very, very careful when he's throwing that big right hand to try and hurt Usyk, that he doesn't leave the other side of his face vulnerable, because Joshua does do that sometimes. He'll throw the right hand, but don't leave the right glove up on the left-hand side of his face. Usyk will be looking to counterpunch him. But of course, Joshua is a fantastically fast counterpuncher as well. But Joshua, in the fights that he struggled with, all of them have been shorter opponents. Usyk is a shorter opponent. But he's not that small. I don't know why people seem to think Oleksandr Usyk is small. He's not small at all. He's a big guy. He's bigger than the average bear, isn't he? He's about the same kind of height as, say, a Luis Ortiz, a Alexander Povetkin. A little bit taller than Andy Ruiz Jr. Of course, the weight is a little bit different, of course. But he's not that small. So I don't know why people seem to think that Usyk, he's pillow-fisted and all that. He's not pillow-fisted at all, okay? He punches hard enough to hurt people. If you look back at the amateurs, we all seen that Joe Joyce get badly hurt by Oleksandr Usyk. So he punches hard, and we all know how good Joe Joyce's chin is. Granted, that was a good few years ago, for sure. But it's going to be a chess match. Now, Usyk, he is used to fighting big guys. Again, going back to the amateurs. But again, he's also used to fighting on the road. Much like most Ukrainians, he's part of this Ukrainian school that produces outstanding talent, such as Lomachenko, such as the Klitschko brothers, and the list goes on. These people are dedicated to their craft. Usyk is very, very intelligent, very, very fast. And him being a southpaw, of course, is always going to help him. But Joshua, of course, he has fought southpaw before in Charles Martin. Will this fight go the same way? It'd be great if it did, but no. Listen, I'm a fan of Oleksandr Usyk. I always have been, and I probably always will be. But, of course, when you're fighting a Brit, I'm always going to want the Brit to win, okay? But it is going to be a chess match, and I can see this being not a great entertaining fight. Okay, I think that this fight may stink the place out, and I have no issue with that as long as Joshua gets to win. I don't care how Joshua does it. I don't care if he stops Usyk, if he beats him on a boring points decision. As long as he wins, that's the only important thing for me. Now, is Usyk going to cause Joshua problems? You betcha. There's a very good chance that he will. Because when you look at, say, Joshua, when he fought, say, Andy Ruiz Jr., of course, the first time, shorter guy, he got landed on. When he fought Povetkin, a shorter guy, gets landed on. Carlos Takam, shorter guy, gets landed on. Okay, Joshua does have vulnerabilities, especially when he's fighting shorter guys. It seems to be with Joshua, when he fights somebody in or thereabouts his own kind of height or taller, he has more success. Against shorter guys, not so much. So it's going to be very interesting. It's going to be a very, very interesting fight. Very, very interesting. And the longer this fight goes on, the more I'll probably be worried for Joshua. Now, for him to stop Oleksandr Usyk, of course, Joshua, he could stop him in round number 1 right the way up to round number 12. Of course, it could happen. He's always going to carry that knockout power in both hands, of course. And Usyk is going to feel that Joshua punches very, very hard. Probably the hardest that they've ever been punched, certainly in the professional game. Now, the blueprint to beat Oleksandr Usyk is pretty much what Chisora done and Marius Bradis. March him down. Don't let him do what he does. But again, that's not Joshua's style. That's not what Joshua does. Because to do that, you have to leave yourself vulnerable. He doesn't want to leave himself vulnerable. He's always going to carry, and it's rightfully so, as all fighters should, you're going to carry the ghosts of things that have happened in the past when you got clipped yourself. So he is going to be cautious. So I fully expect Joshua to use the jab. I fully expect him to throw the right hand once in a while and pace himself. That's very, very important to pace himself, because as I was about to start off saying about a minute or so ago there, for Joshua to stop Usyk, his best chance probably is in the early rounds. The first 2 or 3 rounds is his best chance of doing it, because Usyk, he does take 2 or 3 rounds usually to get into it, to find his own rhythm, to find his own distances, his own feel of the fight. At this point, this is where Joshua could take advantage if Joshua can find his range early on. But it opens risk, because if Joshua tries to get him out of there in the first couple of rounds, he could fatigue very, very quickly as the fight goes on. Now, it is going to be interesting to see what weight both of these guys come in at. If Usyk comes in heavier than what he normally does, then maybe he may actually try and knock out Anthony Joshua. It's not going to be so much about the speed. If Joshua comes in a little bit lighter than usual, then that will tell us he's probably looking to go the distance. So, I mean, we really have to wait and find out what's going to happen on Friday with the weigh-in to have a bit more understanding of how the fight could potentially go. But my prediction for this fight, I'm not confident behind my prediction on this one, but I think Joshua beats him on points. In quite a close fight, I think Joshua may have some scary moments in this fight. But if he's smart, he could stay away from those scary moments, as in just keeping behind the jab. Usyk is very, very fleet-footed, and he's going to be setting traps for Joshua all night long. But Joshua has to set him up with traps as well. Okay, this is going to be a battle of the minds more than anything else, I think. But don't be surprised if Usyk wins this fight, whether it be on points or stoppage. Don't be surprised on that. But my gut feeling, based on their styles, I think Joshua is going to play it very, very cool in this fight. I think he's going to be very, very relaxed. And I think that he'll win the fight on the jab. And his scary moments may come in the last couple of rounds, when Usyk goes, you know what, I'm way behind here. I need to get this win. And he starts throwing the kitchen sink at Joshua. But there again, maybe that might make Usyk walk onto something himself. But this is one of those fights you don't really know how it's going to go. So I wouldn't feel confident about putting money on my prediction at all. But because this fight could go either way. It really could. Either guy can get the stoppage at any point in the fight, and either guy can win this fight on points, whether it be close or wide. But it's going to be very, very interesting. Very, very interesting fight. I'm looking forward to it. As an Anthony Joshua fan, of course, I'm going to be very nervous about it. And if Joshua wins, I hope people do give him credit for it. Not that people have to, I suppose. But a lot of people saying how Joshua, he doesn't want any kind of smoke of Oleksandr Usyk. So if he beats Usyk, don't go turning it around like Oleksandr Usyk. Well, he's small, he weren't that good anyway, and blah, blah, blah. But hey, maybe Usyk is going to go in there and absolutely destroy Anthony Joshua. You never know. You never know. This is going to be a real tough test for Anthony Joshua. But hopefully Anthony Joshua wins this fight comfortably. Hopefully. Anyway, that's my thoughts. You drop me yours. For me, I think Joshua wins on points. Drop your thoughts below. Click thumbs up, subscribe. Catch you on the next video.